me, if you would, for a few minutes. I just want to say it's just great to be here with all you today. Freedom-loving Americans that honor their Constitution and value their rights as freedom.
Freedom!
It's a little cold, it's a little windy, but we're New Yorkers, we're tough, and you know what? It was pretty cold at Valley Forge, too. And they stood up to the cold, and they stood up to tyranny, and we're going to do the same thing. We owe them that respect, we owe them that honor, we owe them everything.
Freedom isn't free!
We're going to stand here, and we're going to brave this, and we're going to be patriots, and we're going to do this peacefully. Let me just tell you this. This was by far my most difficult week in Albany. Those of us here on stage in elected office, we stood up for you and your rights, and our best efforts were defeated, but this battle is not over, it has just begun. And I want to say for those of you that called and emailed and wrote and commented on those YouTube videos, and I hope you saw those. And anybody that messaged me, I just want to tell you on the bottom of my heart, we got buried. There was about 1,000 phone calls and emails. We'd hang up the phone and ring again. And on behalf of me and all the elected officials that you reached out to, thank you, because I can tell you this. For people with courage and honor, Albany can be a lonely place. But I don't work for this governor, and I don't work for that. I want to take a moment and just implore you. I am sure and I pray that everyone in this crowd and everyone that can hear my voice is registered to vote. And if you are not, there's no shame in that, but fix it. Register to vote. Make sure your friends, your families, your cousins, your nephews, your nieces, your grandchildren, the person you see at Stewart's getting coffee, make sure they're registered to vote, because this proves how important the votes are, doesn't it? We talked a lot about violence with guns. I don't call it gun violence, it's violence with guns. We talked a lot about that this week, but you know what happened this week? Political violence happened this week at all. Political bullying ruled the day. Bills that were rushed through with no debate in the Senate. And despite our valiant efforts in the Assembly, we knew the foregone conclusion in that chamber. But we stood up and we fought. Bills that very few read and even fewer understood. This was not democracy. This was not good government. This definitely was not transparency. This was an abuse of power. This was fueled by ego and bravado, and from a man that wanted to do something first so that he could have bragging rights across the country. From a man that wanted to be president but now never will. Citizens of this nation were watching, and they took notice, and they will not let it happen to them. I want to read a quote. I want to read an email that I saw from someone, and it points out something very important here. It said, maybe if guns were being outlawed, I would find protest appropriate, but I'll never need the type of gun that's being banned. And since I had to jump through hoops for a handgun permit anyway, I see no harm in passing a criminal background check. So I support reinstating the ban from 2004 against assault weapons. Until they come for hunting or handguns, I'm okay with it. For those who think this is okay, or it's not my issue, or I don't own guns that are being banned, or I don't own guns at all, let me say this. I would respectfully say they are mistaken. This is every American's issue. If the government feels they can abuse this right, the Second Amendment, how much hesitation will they have to remove all of our rights? It is the Second Amendment that supports all of the other rights and freedoms we enjoy. Tom King from New York Rifle Pistol wants me to mention there's no media coverage here except for YNN and a couple of photographers. Where is the media?
They're part of the problem.
There's got Good job.
It'll be all over YouTube. Don't worry about it.
Let me just tell you for a minute about the governor.
YouTube is better anyway.
The question and answers. Did you notice the questions are this big and the part on criminal penalties is this big on that website? Did you notice that? Let me just say this. You should go there and should check it out, but let me just give you the way I would have finished some of the questions on there. Here's one. What if I have a magazine that contains more than 10 rounds? The answer is you can permanently modify the magazine so that it holds no more than 10 rounds. Responsibly discard it or sell it to a dealer or an out-of-state purchaser by January of 2014. Let me just finish that. Quote, of course you should be aware that the criminals will pay no attention to this new law and you will probably be at a severe disadvantage when your life is on the line.
All right, now, Assemblyman Jimmy Tedisco, right here.
I have to tell you, I was almost going to be a little bit late today because I was right in the middle of John Wayne. It was really apropos. Remember the Alamo? See that building back there? That's what we call the Capitol building in the state of New York. This week, representative democracy did not work in there, but representative democracy is working out here today. I'm going to try to be brief because I know there are several speakers. They want you to hear them. You're going to want to hear them also. But we want the entire state of New York to hear you. Because you're the innocent, honest, law-abiding citizens and gun owners who were made criminals this past week. You know, a part of what took place this week was what I would call a rush to judgment. And I understand why. I don't agree with a lot of it, but I understand why. Part of it is a political agenda. Tragedy. Using this and using innocent children and individuals who were murdered by madmen and criminals. Nobody here was in this park. Nobody who was responsible for the problem. That's the tragedy of a part of what they've done. The important thing for us to remember is this, though. There's a tremendous amount of emotion to this, a tremendous amount of passion.
Louder, Jim! Louder! Jim!
And gun owners.
Louder!
And turn that into bitterness, hatred. You're going to be angry, no question about it. But you've got to turn that anger into something positive. Now, I'm going to ask you to do something right now. Because there's a lot of violence in New York. In Sandy Hook, there's violence every single day. Not by just the weapons of guns. In fact, of the 169 homicides in New York State, do you know how many used the so-called assault weapon to take a person's life? Less than 5, maybe 3. 764 families want to know why we're not banning all the other weapons that these madmen and criminals used. What we're doing is a false sense of well-being. That's dangerous. We're going to have a more dangerous state. But what I'd like you to do, because we should do that now, we should have a moment of silence for the violence that took place at Webster and Sandy Hook, for closure for those family members. Please join me in a moment of silence for those families. We pray that God helps them to heal and have closure. We know how difficult that is. Amen. We've got to have one more moment of silence. We've got to have a moment of silence for the violence that was perpetrated on our freedoms and liberties and the Constitution of the United States of America this week in that building. We've got to have the Lord, and I'll talk about that just a little bit later. We've got to have the Lord help us remove that, expel that, change that, and give us the full freedoms that He's responsible for. Please, let's have a moment of silence for a Constitution that's in the ICU rooms in our hospital right now. Let's bring it back. Prayer. very much. Let me tell you something. I've been an assemblyman for over 31 years. Every single day I've been an assemblyman, I carry with me the most important document we have, the Constitution of the United States of America, right there. Now, it's really probably the second most important document, because you know all the rights that have been delineated, our smart forefathers, they were very intelligent. They put them down on paper, but they didn't give them to us. No man or woman gave us the freedoms and liberties in this Constitution, Bill of Rights, or even our Second Amendment. No man or woman, and we can be heartened by this, can ever take them away. Every dictator in every totalitarian state, the leader of the state says, I'm more interested in not the process, but getting things done. He's not interested in representative democracy. He's not interested in debate. He wants to come into the middle of the night and pass legislation. And he says, look how effective I am. Well, you know what? There's tin-horn dictators in totalitarian states around the world who are effective every day. And they're killing millions of people and taking away their rights. We need representative democracy. There's only one person, one individual who can give us these rights and take those rights away. That's our supreme being, that's our God, and that's our law. And make sure you sign the petition. Now, on the floor of the Assembly, I told them and I read what the Second Amendment is all about. And you know what the Second Amendment is all about. The right of the people to hold and bear arms. It shall not be infringed. The Amendment is the people. It's not the president. It's not the governor. It's not senators. It's not CIA agents. It's not FBI. It's not policemen. The military we respect. It is the people. That means all of us have the right. Keep and bear arms. Keep and bear arms.
We the people! We the people! We the people! We the people!
New York State, our Second Amendment has been diminished. Okay? New York State is not the state of the Second Amendment. It is the state of the 1.5 Amendment. All right? Maybe it's an amendment and a half. It's not amendment number 2 because it was diminished this past week. And it was diminished for political reasons, as I mentioned, for reasons of expediency. We have to change now. Now, you're wondering, what's the answer to change that? Well, I'll tell you. I'll tell you what the answer to change that is. In the next election, first of all, we've got to keep talking about it. We've got to stick to the facts. We can't be having rush to judgment. We can't be lying about things like assault weapons were used to murder when they did not exist in the situation that took place. The media has allowed that for 4 or 5 weeks. That's a lie. In closing, here's what we have to do. In 2 years, there'll be an election. If we can't repeal this law in 2 years, we have to repeal the legislators who voted for it and put back the